My name is Charlie McGrath. I'm the founder of WideAwakeNews.com, host on the Rinse Radio Network, and co-founder of Doomcast. The hypocrisy, the outright, no holds barred, in your face deception by government and by the upper echelons of the political elite class and the upper echelons of the financial class, the ruling elite, the technocrats, the brazen attack on the truth is beyond comprehension at times. It's hard to even put together these commentary videos anymore to look at the current state of our country, the path we are on, our financial devastation that's being laid out before us, the pain and suffering that's going to come with that financial devastation that's yet to be realized by the majority of the people of this country, but will be realized. The stage is being set for never-ending conflict, never-ending control being given to the military and security industrial complex to sit back and to watch this happen day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's to the point that I just don't understand. Where are my fellow Americans? Where are you? Where is the outrage by the people of this country? Are we so simply bought off by bread and circus that as long as we have some kind of regular programming on television or the beer is cold, we're not going to stand up and say enough is enough? You're doing this garbage in my name and it has to end? When are we going to realize? Is it going to be after the lights go out? Is it going to be after the destruction of our dollar and the destruction of our way of life? Is that when we're going to finally say, hey, I guess we should have done something? Look, every single day that passes by, you're losing more and more of your freedom. You're losing more and more of the ability to determine your own destiny. We are giving it away to people who could care less about you, your family, or your future. It is time to wake up and realize the path we are on. The path we are on, that if we don't get off it, and I mean now, it will be absolutely too late for future generations in this country, too late for the present generation X in this country. The people who are currently trying to eke out an existence in this economy, in this country. It's going to be too late. Hubris, pride, lust for money and power, this is what dominates the political class. This is what dominates the upper echelons of the financial elite class, the technocratic class. And it's going to be the downfall of your country. There is no other path that this will lead to other than the total devastation of everything that you know, including the reputation of the United States of America, if it's not already too far damaged to be repaired. Look, just today, the president comes out, speaking on behalf of who he truly represents, special interest, and talked about the new round of sanctions that were coming to Putin and his inner circle inside of Russia, to include a bank as well as key sectors of their economy, saying in his speech that he knows full well, the president and his handlers know full well that this round of sanction isn't going to just hurt Russia, it's going to hurt the global economy. But as the president says, paraphrasing, that's just too bad, because in this 21st century, there's consequences for violating the sovereignty of a nation. Now, how he can say that and how we don't have protests and outrage in the streets as we as Americans that are having things done in our name that are exactly that, dominating and destroying nations, destabilizing whole regions of the world so that we can set up shop there, so that we can serve special interests that truly is the power in Washington, D.C. How we can just sit back and listen to this garbage and say, yeah, well, we're protecting the sovereignty of Ukraine. We're protecting the sovereignty of this region. This is a bold-faced lie that if people like John McCain had their way, you would be strapping a gun to your back and walking and going into battle for the Crimean Peninsula. This is McCain's theory. This is McCain's wish. In fact, he's gut shot that he doesn't have that option. In fact, he told in a recent interview, he told the reporter, I'd love to tell you there's a military option in Ukraine, but frankly, I don't see it. I wish there was, and I'm a military option. This would be the best outcome. This is John McCain's wish. Warhawk John McCain. He wants a military option in Ukraine. He wants U.S. involvement militarily with the Russians over Ukraine. Why? Is it because he wants the people of Ukraine to have freedom? This is, this is the catchphrase. This is the tagline that McCain likes to use, and the other war hawks in Washington, D.C., both on the left and the right. They're spreading freedom. They're spreading democracy. Yeah, it's important when, democracy and freedom and liberty and sovereignty is important when it's in a area like Ukraine that's rich with natural resources, and more importantly, rich with pipelines, Russian pipelines running through it, bringing energy resources to Europe. It's important when the IMF wants to get their greedy little claws into Ukraine so they can implement austerity and steal the national treasures of that country. It's important when they want NATO to bolster its military presence in that region of the world and be on the doorstep of Russia. But it isn't so important when there's genocide happening in Africa. It isn't so important when there's true violations of sovereignty going on, like the United States flying drone missions, killing hundreds and hundreds of people every single month in the name of fighting the war on terror. Suddenly, sovereignty is not as important then. Suddenly, spreading freedom and democracy isn't quite that important then, when there's not a special interest handler behind the scenes. This is the fact and the reality of the nation that we live in, and we need to get our heads out of the pop culture and realize what's happening to us, and we're doing around the world these things that are being done in our name, because it has an ending, folks. It has an ending for the people of this country, and it's not a pretty one. It's time we realize what's going on and look at Washington, D.C. for what it is. Nothing but a bunch of prostitutes who are willing to sell themselves to the highest bidder. If you don't think that's the truth, you're not basing your decisions and your information in reality. Look at the situation with Credit Suisse just today. Another too big to fail, too big to jail institution that built this country out of millions and millions of dollars by advertising that they could take your money and hide it away from the IRS. Millions, if not billions of dollars of money that could go to our government in order to fund this thing, this debacle that's running $1 trillion+ a year in deficit. But this too big to fail institution decided they'd come over here and tell their U.S. employees to go out and pump this stuff like a bunch of snake oil salesmen trying to sell investments that would hide money away from the government and the government coffers. And what happens to Credit Suisse from committing this felony for breaking the law in the United States? Well, if it was you and you bilked the government out of $1,000 of your hard-earned income, you're going to go to prison, potentially. You're certainly going to pay a stiff penalty and have to answer to the full force and power of the Internal Revenue Service. But if you're Credit Suisse and you're too big to fail, then Eric Holder turns a blind eye and you're off the hook once again. Just like we saw with HSBC, laundering all kinds of drug money. Too big to jail. We don't want to destabilize the global economy. See, it's okay to destabilize the global economy if it's beating the drums of war against Russia in Crimea or in Ukraine. But it's not okay to destabilize the global economy when it comes to throwing a bunch of globalist elite scumbag bankers who belong in prison. We can't do that. We don't want to destabilize the country. We need to understand something. This world is destabilized. This planet is destabilized. And it is so because of these technocratic elite that want nothing more than to control this entire planet and infect it with their form of technocratic government. That is what's in store for this country, just like we see happening throughout Europe. It will be implemented and it will be achieved if we don't show a spine, stand up, speak out, and demand an end to this insanity yesterday. Not now, yesterday. This is the action we must take, because if we don't, we'll have no one to blame for our enslavement than our own selves. Stories are attached. That's all I got.